Bobby Manning, Jimmy Toscano, Boston Celtics drop one at home, 112-105. Battle of the East Titans, Bobby. I have a feeling that this isn't the last battle that you're going to see between the Celtics and the Pistons. They've had some really good ones so far in the regular season. Will they meet again? Perhaps.
There's another game, Jimmy.
But I'm talking postseason.
Okay.
Will they meet when it really matters? It could happen, Bobby. I mean, the way things have been shaken up for both these teams, it looks like the Celtics are, again, they lost this one, and we're going to get into it. But tip my cap for, I think, a good game and a tough ending. The Garden Report starts now. Always has to be a shot at somebody.
I know.
They're never clean.
They have to run. That's the only shot they have.
They do it for 82 games. We're about to find out.
He already has shown what he's capable of.
Did surprise me. I thought we were going to hang in there.
This makes me think that we do need to be humble.
I actually think you're the only one who deserved that beating.
Oh, man. Was that hard hat loss, Jimmy?
No, because I hated the way they played at the end of that fourth quarter. I will say it was a hard hat. It was a hard hat game. It was shaping up to be a hard hat game. And, we're going to talk about, obviously Jaylen Brown, Derek White, two guys that, paced the team offensively, each hitting over the 30-point marker. I think Jaylen Brown's 15 games now over 30 points. But as good as those 34 points were, Bobby, it's the 7 points that he missed at the free throw line that I think fans are probably going to bed tonight thinking about.
Yeah, for sure, especially the two late. You get within 4, you have a chance to cut it to 2, and then you give up a dagger, essentially, by Cade the other way right after the 2 free throw misses by Jaylen. Great stuff by Derek down the stretch to will you back into this one. 8 points in pretty much a 2-minute stretch there to make this a game again after the Jaylen free throw misses. But you just needed too much tough shooting in this one. You couldn't take what was easy, getting the stops, getting the rebounds, securing those in your own end, the free throws, obviously, and then a lot of open 3-point looks, including Pritchard's at the very end. It didn't matter a ton.
What happened with that Pritchard look?
I don't know, just completely flat. And this is an extension of what we watched on Thursday, Jimmy. They're back into a dip from 3, 25.6% from 3 in this one.
This is a
big reason they lose.
Yeah, and we talked to mentioned Jaylen Brown's missed free throws to start the show, but also the turnovers. Brown with the tough one there, and it wasn't just him. Everybody was getting in on the action there, but obviously that one that Brown threw away off of somebody's back. I forget exactly who it was in Detroit.
Lovert, I think.
Okay. That one stands out of points in transition off that. You had overall in this game, I go down the line here, 13-11 in the turnover battles. But if I want to pull up the fourth quarter stats, which I haven't been able to isolate those yet, bad turnovers in that fourth quarter, Bobby, there, where it just seemed every time the Celtics hit a big shot, Derek White hitting a big shot, right? Or Jaylen Brown, bullying his way to the paint and putting up a nice one, or the end one there that he had as well. They would shoot themselves in the foot. They would just dribble it and get stolen. I mean, steals. They were doing it to themselves out there, it felt.
Yeah, fourth quarter was 5 turnovers, Celtics 1 by the Pistons.
Yeah, 5 turnovers in the fourth quarter. And you're talking basically crunch time situations the whole way through. it was high pressure fourth quarter. Both teams trading baskets, going on their little mini runs there. Pistons going up by 8, Celtics hitting, a 3 and then, another 2 to get it to within 1 possession, and then just kind of trading little mini runs, it felt like. And it seemed like every time the Celtics were right there at the point where they could tie it up or continue their run and retake the lead, they'd turn it over. Is that's uncharacteristic of what we've seen of this team this season. I don't even know if anything Detroit did or if it was really, if you got to tip your cap to Detroit, obviously, but I feel like Celtics kind of did it to themselves in a way.
Yeah, and shout out to the former Celtic, Javonte Green. Clean stripping, I believe, Pritchard and getting out on a dunk. Both plays, I believe, were Pritchard, or maybe it was Jaylen on one of them. But he had a few big steals down the stretch to secure this game. Cade made huge shots in the offensive end for, Pritchard on the first one. White on the second one for Javante there with the 2 steals down the stretch. And then Cade.
Yeah, and the thunderous dunk.
Thunderous dunk. Should have been an and one. He was pissed about that. Ends up being a technical the other way. Some tension in this game. Obviously, former teammates and 2 teams that know each other very well. I was thinking during the course of this game, Jimmy, and you mentioned off the top there, could these 2 teams meet down the line? These teams have been battling for years, and not just these last couple of years where the Pistons have been better. Those awful Pistons teams gave the Celtics tough pushes through some of those years. You remember Sadiq Bey and the 26-game losing streak or whatever it was. They had the Celtics on the ropes. I believe down 20 or something like that here. Almost ended the streak in this building before the Celtics came back. So I've loved these matchups so far. The first one in Detroit early this year was awesome. The second one, you had the Cade foul at the end. 3 free throws to tie it. He misses the third. That was still on their mind before this game. JB Bickerstaff, their coach, was praising Cade for going to the ref, telling him what he was going to do before he did it, and then getting that foul call at the end of that game, and then ultimately missing that one. So he came back, I'm sure, with that in his mind, Jimmy. And this guy, I mean, we're going to praise Jaylen for the points and the scoring and all that, but this guy and his performance is what I feel like a future MVP looks like here. 11 for 21 from the field, 6 threes, his most all season, 32 points, 10 assists, 4 rebounds. The Celtics were crowding him every time. He would always find the open guy. A lot of the shots the Pistons missed, he could have had like 15 assists, I feel like, the way he put the ball in this one. This guy's one of my 3 to 5 favorite players to watch in the league.
You've been
saying
that for a couple of years now, that Cade's, one of your guys. And I think tonight was fun for a lot of reasons, but it was like whenever the superstars play like superstars, that's like you go home smiling, right? Obviously.
How about that shot at the end? How many, LeBron, Durant, you've seen guys like that hit shots in this building. Shots with the building going crazy, Jimmy. It was rocking in here, and he took the ball against full court pressure all the way down the court and hit a shot. And that's what's impressive, too.
Talking about which one? The one where he kind of got
the
to the
earlier
mid-range?
one. Yeah.
Okay,
The dagger at the end, he just kind of got into his shot. But there was a play out of timeout, I believe, a couple of minutes earlier. Went the length of the floor, set himself, hit a big shot in between. Jordan Walsh pressuring him the whole game. And Walsh has neutralized how many stars at this point? I feel like he gave a good effort here. Cade was just better.
Totally. I mean, Cade got into that superstar groove that certain guys get into. And I think, I echo what you said. I've always had an eye on Cade Cunningham, and it feels like the last, obviously came in with a lot of publicity, and he's lived up to it. And I think he is actually getting better and better. And there was a comment that I posted earlier calling him a cool customer. He's just smooth. Yeah. He's smooth out there, man. He's cool, calm, collected, gets to where he needs to go. It's the big shot. Before we go any further, just a quick reminder, you're watching the Garden Report Postgame Show. Proud partner of the CLNS Media Network, proud part of the CLNS Media Network. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss when a new video drops on the channel. We're waiting for Joe Mazzulla here. Hasn't popped on screen yet. Make sure to follow us on all the social media at Celtics CLNS, and follow our show on Twitter at The Garden Report to stay up to date. And hey, if you want even more from us, check out the rest of CLNS lineup. Celtics fans, we've got Celtics All Access with tons of segments and behind-the-scenes content. NBA history buffs, we've got that channel with Nick, Coop, Max, Bob, Ryan, and more. And Patriots fans, hit up Patriots Press Pass, the best Patriots coverage in town.
Couple
and by
tough
the way,
losses for Boston.
Cardi B is all over the CLNS Patriots Twitter feed right now. She showed up to Diggs's charity event, and we got some great footage of Cardi B. Shout out Amit.
Exactly what the fans are looking for.
There. Yeah, exactly. Bruins fans, we got you covered as well. Bruins Ringside with the best hockey pod around. And Prize Picks. Always, the show and everything on CLNS is brought to you by Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app and the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right, Bobby.
So let me count this down, Jimmy.
Yeah,
because I keep track of the center lineups. Luke was your third center.
I wanted to get into the rotations tonight. I wanted to get into the minutes. I wanted to get into this. So why don't you go? By the way, that turtleneck is popping right now. I'm getting a good look at it.
So
wow.
That was where I was going to go next out of this one. not that it lost you this game, but man, did this game show you how thin you are at center right now. Your first center is Nemesh Queta. Your second center is Josh Minot. Your third center is Jordan Walsh. And then in this game, you got down to your fourth center, Hugo Gonzalez, and it looks like we have Joe here.
Okay, we'll go to Joe, and then we'll talk third centers. So I'm going to put him on.
Problem you refer to?
Well, I'm just saying that like you guys kind of faded in the second half of both games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just I thought in the first game that was just we didn't play well. I thought we executed. Thought we got some really good looks. I thought we didn't make them. We obviously, had some possessions where we either didn't, execute, find the right spacing, or we just kind of, we had 13 turnovers. A couple of those live ball were for dunks. But I thought it was a better process tonight than it was in the past game for sure. I thought they just they made more plays than we did down the stretch.
The self-inflicted stuff, the turnovers, is that like a loss of focus, or is it more credit to the type of defense that Detroit was playing?
No, I mean, I think sometimes it just happens. I mean, we only had 13. I think we're around 10 or 11. So, I mean, it's just normal. It's an average what we have. So there was a couple when whether we dribbled off our foot, just normal stuff that happens throughout a game.
You mentioned the created good looks and the missed open looks. How does that affect the pressure they're able to put on Jaylen when he's, doing a lot of the scoring? How much more attention can they put on him when the shots aren't falling?
I think at the end of the day, you just have to make the right read, which I thought he did tonight. I thought he got to the free throw line. He finished at the rim. He kicked out for open shots. I think that's just the nature of it. Nothing else is more important than that, regardless of if they're going in or not. Are we making the right read? I thought we did that for the majority of the game, and I thought there was obviously possessions that we can get better at that.
Sam going out coupled with some of the fouling issues for Jordan and Hugo, how did that sort of influence what you wanted to do from a substitution?
Yeah, I mean, obviously not having Sam and his ability to execute and really play, from an offensive standpoint and what he gives us defensively. But, I think we talked about it before the game. That's just part of the depth that we have. So it was just the next guy's got to play. So obviously you want to have, Jordan out there because of what he's been able to do from a defensive standpoint. But, the other guys were called upon, and we had some good moments and, obviously moments we can get better at.
Whether it was the second chance points they had in the first half or the turnovers in the second half, those self-inflicted errors, do you feel like that was more of an issue? And how hard is it when you're plugging up one issue and then another one pops up that you're trying to solve in real time?
What's the question? I wasn't listening.
Just how much of it did you feel like was about those self-inflicted errors compared to
Those,
stuff that they did to
tonight.
induce those?
It was a combination of both. I mean, I think, credit to them. They made plays.
Should I run over there?
They made some timely open
It's best that you
looks.
stay right here.
They had a couple timely live ball turnovers, which we can control better. They made some big time shots. So I think it was a combination of both.
And then with the bench scoring difference being 47-14, what do you see as the roots of that?
I would say you have to make them in order for the bench points to count. So
Here we go.
Like I said, I thought we got some really good looks. I thought the process we just didn't make some of them.
Jordan has often been the guy that you use to guard the go-to player for the opposing team. What went into sitting him down the stretch and going with another group there?
Needed points.
I thought we needed scoring at that time. We were down multiple possessions.
Jimmy.
I also felt like the points that Cunningham got weren't matchup dependent. It was just he got 6 threes. He made some pick and roll threes, and so I like what Ant was giving us on the offensive end and what Ant gave us defensively. So I think at that time you were looking to just score and kind of have an offensive lineup out there.
You mentioned those Cade threes. The way you guys defended him and the threes that he did make, were you happy with the defense he played and he just hit some in tough spots, or do you think there was stuff?
Yeah, I mean, especially the one coming out of the timeout, the one right in front of our bench. I thought that was a tough shot there. So he's a good player. I mean, I just got to tip your cap to him. Like I said, I thought we answered the call from a physicality standpoint. Just got to execute better.
Joe, what led you to go kind of zone extensively in this one, and how did you think it held up?
I mean, to me, zone isn't a post thing where you're like, oh, it's good. You have to decide to do it because, you can't look at it and be like, oh, it didn't work because of X, Y, and Z. We gave up. I thought it messed up their rhythm. I thought it allowed us, to kind of change the matchups, keep guys out of it. I thought, Javante Green hit a 3. A couple guys had a couple shots, but I thought it was good for us at times. But regardless, it's one of those things that we want to have in our back pocket to change the rhythm. And regardless of if it's good or not, we got to be able to do it. And I thought we had some good moments of it tonight.
Joe, how do you think you dealt with their physicality?
I mean, I thought we answered the call. I think they're one of the bigger, more physical teams in the league. I think we're right there. Obviously, there's 4 or 5 possessions, some of the live ball turnovers, but I liked our mental toughness. I liked our physical toughness throughout the game. I think what we can learn from this one is continuing to maintain those things, and then just have our execution on both ends of the floor. So I thought we met that call tonight.
There was a play, I think the second quarter, Stewart just snatched the ball from Josh and scored, and you pulled Josh. Is that what was the reasoning behind that? And is that the kind of examples you have to do to step up the physicality when they're trying to play?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Josh is, as we talked about before, he's learning to play different positions. He's not necessarily a 5-man, but he's going to be matched up with different guys. But the games like this, I thought tonight had a playoff type feel to it, and games like this call for another level of physicality that we have to be able to get to. And so it's just teaching moments there, and I think for more times than not throughout the game, we met that challenge, and we have to continue to do so. Thank you, Joe. Thanks.
Interesting stuff from Joe there. Feeling positive, or at least trying to play up the optimism out of this one. And I don't totally disagree, Jimmy. I usually roll my eyes sometimes at Joe doing that after a loss. But I actually do feel like there were moments throughout this game. I mean, we're talking about the best team in the East, Jimmy. And I say coming out of that last game against them, Celtics won, obviously, maybe got fortunate with that Cade free throw miss at the end. But they were super impressive without Cade in that game too, against, as Joe just said there, maybe the most physical big team in the league. I think they deserve that distinction. The way they've handled Duren in these games, Stewart obviously gave them some fits in this one at times with the physicality, but I feel like they held up well for most of the game. It is just the couple different plays down the stretch that you slip up on, couple different plays throughout the course of a game that you look back on and say, you do have to be better in those situations. And obviously their best player was just a little bit better than your best player in this one. But, we're talking about a Celtics team without Tatum, trying to stay in the mix here this season, fight in every game. And this is a Pistons team, I think, that should be considered right there with the Knicks as the East favorite. So, it's not a demoralizing loss in the sense of like the expectations for both of these teams coming in. It's tough from the aspect of 5, 6, 7 times in this game. You couldn't make plays. You couldn't make stops that you just have to make. Remember that sequence? I think it was early in the fourth, I believe. Yeah, 2 minutes into the fourth, Joe called timeout because Pistons just grabbed their own miss. Harris threw up a 3, ball bounced right back to him. Celtics were just standing around. Harris just walked into a 2. No one even guarded him. And Joe just had to step right onto the court 2 minutes into the fourth and call a timeout. There were too many moments like that in this one. So I'd say 80% of this game you love. 10 to 20% just brutal execution and a lot of plays that you want to have back. And I don't know, does that make you feel better, worse coming out of this one? The fact that it is just a few small things that you need to clean up. I mean, you did not look like you couldn't keep up with this team that's 21-5. You were right there all night.
Yeah, I think it really depends on if you're glass half full or glass half empty. So on the positive side, I look at the performance of, and again, we will talk about the late game issues, specifically with Jaylen Brown with the turnovers and the missed free throws. But I look at those, Brown and Derek White, the two-headed monster of the Celtics team, showing up in huge moments throughout the game. I mean, Derek White is just a big time, big game player, and he made big shot after big shot, the smart play, the extra pass. Loved what I saw from Derek White. I feel really good about where Derek White is now compared to where I was thinking about him like a month or so ago. That's a huge positive for me. I'm a little disappointed in the reserves, Bobby, and I think Joe is too, whether or not he says it or not. I think he wants. Listen, we all know Joe is an intense guy. Everything about him, walking is, I don't know if he has a dog, but I imagine that's an even intense moment for him. Like, he's just high energy. You got to meet him at the level he expects you to be at, or he's not going to give you the time of day. He's not going to respect you. He's not going to, if you're a player, he's not going to play you. And I think Joe, and maybe Minot is an example of that, whether it was Gary, I think it was Gary who asked, I think that's an example of where Joe's at. He wants. Oh, we got Jaylen up right now. Let's go to Jaylen. I'll continue my thought.
Probably a little bit of both. Definitely has some great looks, but also has some unforced turnovers and stuff like that, stuff that we can control. So we got to be better.
Jaylen, back here. Joe said that he felt this was like kind of a playoff type feel in this game. Do you feel like with the physicality, and how did you guys feel like you kind of stood up to that over the course of the game?
Yeah, very physical game. I thought we met the challenge, physicality-wise. Thought we, we rebounded, protected the paint, all those good things that, were good signs that we were meeting the physicality. Just, we got to be better. I got to be better. I wasn't good enough for my team tonight, so that's on me.
Jaylen, Joe mentioned that he liked the process, but in the end, they just made more plays. When you talk about, when it comes down to making those plays, do you think it was just a matter of them hitting tough shots? What went into the fact that they were just able to make more plays than you guys in those moments?
Yeah, I think they made some more defensive plays than we did. That led to some points, and then we didn't really shoot the ball well to kind of counteract that. I thought we got a bunch of great looks, though. I thought our offense did what it needed to do. I thought our defense was good at times. Maybe we could have been better in the foul margin area, but, we were in the fight. I got to do better to get my team over the hump. My mind, I didn't have my best game tonight, so that's on me.
Jaylen, you said a couple of times you got to do better. You have 34 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Why do you feel like you didn't do enough? Where did you feel like you should have been better?
Just some, especially in the fourth quarter, guys. Just some mindset plays. Got a foul. Staying down on the shot fake. Had a turnover in the fourth, and then just too many missed free throws. Just mentality-wise, mindset-wise, I needed to be more for my team, and I wasn't tonight.
Jaylen, can you describe the situation with Stewart and kind of what went on when y'all was talking and you put up your fist?
We was just having fun. That was it. Just having fun. I think Stewart is a nice guy.
And are teams kind of combating you now, you personally and team being more physical? Are teams trying to kind of rough you up a little bit?
Yeah, it seemed like that, but I'm all for it. So that's something that tonight you could definitely see that was on there. They just try to, foul hard and things like that. I just gotta, protect myself also from injury, but step up and knock down the free throw and get back on defense.
And how do you guys counter that? Do you guys become tougher yourselves? Do you guys talk back more? Like how do you kind of counter that?
Yeah, we meet the physicality, and I think that's what we did tonight. I think my team did enough. I got to be better, down the stretch. We got to be better down the stretch, but definitely a game. Definitely a game that got away from us. That got away from me. So we'll watch the film and be ready for the next one.
Last question, Jay. You've talked a couple of times about how you need to do different things now. The team is constructed differently. What goes into finishing games against a team like that that's different for you now in the role that you're in, and how have you tried to approach that this season?
Just the little plays, just the little plays, making the right reads, getting other guys some easy shots. Rebounding is big for us. Staying on the glass, staying in a fight, and then just making the simple plays, all that stuff adds up. Turnovers, missed free throws, open shots, all of that little stuff adds up. So tonight wasn't my best night at that, but I'll take accountability so we get ready for the next one.
Thank you, Jaylen.
There you have it.
All
Jaylen
right.
taking a lot of the blame.
As he's known to do. So, shout out Jaylen Brown for taking responsibility. He is the leader of this team right now, of course. And so again, another 30-plus point performance from him. But as we said at the top, Bobby, we're going to be talking about the missed points. We're going to be talking about the mistakes, and I feel like that's kind of how he feels. Saying that he needs to do better, specifically pointing out the late turnover there, the missed free throws. Any of that have to do with him going the full 12 minutes in the third quarter? Was he gassed? I mean, was he trying to do too much out there and just?
I don't think it should be gassed. I mean, they haven't played in like 10 days here.
I know, but you would think.
Yeah,
right?
I think.
I do think the minutes distribution is interesting tonight. I don't know if Joe just treated it as, he called it a playoff atmosphere. I don't know if he's.
They lost Hauser.
That's a good reason why. Okay, they lost Hauser to the sprained ankle.
And Walsh and Ugo were playing center.
Well, Walsh had 4 fouls in this one too, so he found some foul trouble early. I know in that first half, so he prevented himself from some of the extra playing time. But you get Brown 40, Cade at 34 minutes.
He was tough. I liked his game tonight.
37, Pritchard 35. So they have Simon's 25.
Tough Simon's game.
Nobody mentioned it. You thought it was a tough Simon's game? I actually disagree with that.
Yeah,
I thought Simon's in the fourth quarter did a few things for them, not just on offense but defensively. Forced a turnover out of bounds there late in that fourth that they actually called the challenge on and they won. Had the nice play at the rim right before somebody hit a 3. He had a nice play.
Down the stretch. He kind of got that little run going, but 0-5 from 3. Didn't give you a ton of scoring when that's what you put him in the game for there, as Joe described. So, make miss, I guess, with him. He probably did some other things, as you mentioned, that made him competitive. Plus 8. So it wasn't bad, but I feel like you could have got more from him when you call on him. But, that's the problem, right, Jimmy, that we've talked about him all season. You don't have him in a significant role until you absolutely need him. And then it's like, oh, come in and hit a bunch of shots and save us. And he's capable of doing that, obviously, but it is a tough spot to put him into. I feel like you fared decently here. You just didn't get what you were asking him to do.
I don't think he contributed to the loss. I don't think he's the reason they lost. Do you think Walsh should have been in there? I mean, here's the question. Do you think Walsh has earned the right to be in there? Is maybe what I want to ask, just based on the way he's played, obviously, as of late, the last month, plus the fact that he's seen as the, defensive stopper now on this team. They take him out. Cade Cunningham does his thing, although Cunningham had been doing his thing previously regardless. So might not even mattered who was in there on Cunningham at that point or who was in the game. But do you feel like Walsh deserves to be in there late in the game, or Joe's making the right decision by trying to lean towards offense and go with a guy like Simons? Obviously, like you said, Hauser's not in the game at this point. Not that he's been hitting shots anyways, but Joe leans offense in this one. And do you feel like that was the right call? Or do you think Walsh should kind of be the guy down the stretch there in a close game?
Yeah, I think they made the right call there, only because the way Detroit guarded them in this game, they weren't defending Ugo, Walsh, those guys out on the perimeter. And you were going to end up passing those guys over and over and over again. You needed some offense. So I do agree with Joe in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan's given you decent offense over the last couple of weeks here. This is a game where he just didn't get many looks. So tough to blame him for 8 points on 2 or 3. But that's basically what he gave you this one. Couldn't play a ton because of foul trouble, as you mentioned. Didn't start the second half. So there was something about Ugo that they liked better defensively in this one. It is interesting, though, because when they've gotten Jordan looks recently, he has come through. So it's not like he's shooting poorly. It's not like he's a zero threat at the moment. In fact, he's been shooting as well as anyone on this team. Third in scoring over this recent stretch for them, even ahead of Pritchard. 20 points on Thursday. So there was a case to keep Walsh in this game, particularly with the defensive pressure that you could put on a guy like Cade. Who did Cade score on that last bucket? I'll pull it up quick here, the replay. One that's on the door in this game.
And while we're on the talking Walsh, and really Walsh, Minot, Shireman, Ugo, those are the 4 guys that have kind of been rotating in, right? Obviously, Walsh is the starter right now.
It was over Derek.
Okay, it was over Derek White. You've got Shireman, Gonzalez, Minot. I'll toss Hauser in there, although tonight's not an example. But what I was going to say before I went to Brown is that it didn't feel like, okay, so if this is a playoff atmosphere type environment, or if this is a playoff game, and that's how Joe is kind of approaching it and coaching it, and certainly it looked like, guys like White and Brown felt that way about it. The intensity was there for those guys throughout. I have a feeling Joe might be a little frustrated at how those players approached this game, played in this game. I think their level of intensity was a little bit lacking for I think what it called for. And I think, again, and Gary Washburn asked Joe something similar about it with Minot. That's certainly why Minot got yanked, is because if you're not going 110% right now, if you're not fighting for the ball, if you're not playing physical, if you're not matching Detroit, because they are a physical team, they will bully you if you let them, right? They want to play Detroit. I mean,
Detroit basketball.
Detroit basketball has been bully ball for 40 years, right?
It's so funny that they found that identity again.
And so here they are again. And if you're the Celtics, there has been some wimpy Celtics teams over the last decade or so, Bob.
So what do you think, Joe's comment, Jimmy? Detroit's one of the toughest teams in the league. We're right there.
I think that Celtics can be right there. And I think when Joe sees guys not playing physical and not playing hard like they should be, find the bench. I think we've seen this Celtics team
right off the floor, as Gary mentioned.
We've seen this Celtics team this year. I mean, whether you want to call it physics, whether you want to call it toughness, whether you want to call it intensity, whether you want to call it effort, it's all some level of there's a lot of crossing there, right? With the energy, the effort, the intensity, the hustle, the physicality, all those things are hand in hand. That is the Celtics identity. They aren't a team that is going to trot out 5 all-stars and just win because they're going to hit shots. They have to play hard. They have to play physical. They have to win the 50-50 balls. And so I do agree with Joe that this Celtics team has that identity this year, because they wouldn't be 15-11 if they didn't have that identity. They don't have the raw basketball scoring talent to win another way. So this is the type of game where you need to not only match Detroit, you need to kind of, it's difficult, but you need to try to kind of exceed that physicality or that energy. And I think the Celtics, to their credit, they did it for the majority of this game. It was an intense game. It was a very entertaining game. And I think they shot themselves in the foot late in that fourth quarter there. And I feel like Mazzulla kind of said similar, and I think Jaylen Brown did as well. I mean, if you watch the game, you saw how the Celtics kind of kept clawing back into it. Detroit would score a few, then Boston would claw back in it. But then that silly turnovers, just being careless with the ball, Detroit made them pay, and obviously behind Cunningham.
Yeah, I feel like the Celtics hurt themselves more with execution in this one than with toughness, physicality. I mean, they do lose the rebounding battle 12-7 in terms of offensive rebounds. But this is a game. This is a matchup. Let's say they do meet in the playoffs. You walk into that series saying you're going to lose the rebounding battle. Like, there's just no chance against this team. It's been a constant in all 3 Pistons Celtics games, particularly the first one where you couldn't grab a single rebound over the last 3 minutes. I think the Pistons got every offensive rebound over that stretch to close that game, the second game of the year. So you're just not going to win that area against them. You got to be competitive, and I felt like they were in this one, but you have to find other ways, and a lot of it's going to be the shooting. You couldn't make shots here. Are you a good shooting team? I feel like we still don't know with the Celtics team, despite that extended hot stretch that they had. And then at the free throw line, I mean, to talk about toughness, Jimmy, the Celtics generated more free throws than the Pistons. You would not have thought that would be the case going into this kind of matchup here, but 27-25, you miss 8 in a game that you lose by 7 here. So you got to make those. You got to close the gap a little bit, and that's on Jaylen. I actually do like Jaylen taking a lot of the blame for the turnovers. He had 4. The free throw misses, he had 7. This just wasn't Jaylen
missed 8 as well.
Year.
Just for the record, Detroit also missed 8 free throws.
For sure, but that's on them. We're talking about stuff that the Celtics can do better here. And given your personnel, Jimmy, this team had a sense coming into this year, and maybe we can debate how much this has been warranted, but they knew coming into this year, given the personnel that they had, that they just were not going to be competitive on the boards this season. So you had to find other ways to work around it. And like it or not, they've decided over the last 2 weeks here, we're just going to play one center. It's going to be Cade, who I thought was excellent in this one. Yep. And then if your backup centers, as I mentioned earlier, are Minot, Ugo, and Walsh, you're going to lose the rebounding battle to Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren. There's just no way around that. And I don't think anyone would argue the way that they're playing right now for Garza, Tillman, Boucher. Like those guys are buried, and they're buried for a reason. And
I miss
this is what
the
they
days
got.
of the $40 million third centers, Bobby. That's seems like forever ago.
I mean, it's crazy. If I told you coming into this year, Jimmy, that the Celtics would be down to Cade and Minot at center, what do you think their record would be?
You already know where I was on this team going into the year, so I had them pretty bad. So yeah, I would think I would be talking single digit wins right now is the way I would think of it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy what they've done with that, especially in this matchup. And again, they were competitive running those lineups throughout the course of the game while going through foul trouble, while losing Hauser. So listen, if you want, we've said it all year, Jimmy. If you think that this team's going to massively exceed expectations this year, upset a team like the Pistons in the first round, potentially, this kind of loss points toward that not happening. But if you just want them to be competitive, stay in the mix, battle, play some fun games this year, that's what they gave you here in this one. And there's certainly, again, 7-8 plays that you want to have back coming out of this one. But this team's clearly, definitively better than you. You're just overmatched in terms of the talent and the personnel at key positions there. Maybe it's a little disappointing that Cade outduels Jaylen in a game like this, given the mano-a-mano aspect of it. But I'm not freaking out about a loss to the best team in the league, particularly when you beat them with a great performance last time and stayed competitive throughout the course of this one. Let's see if this streak mounts here. Do you keep shooting poorly? Do you lose to Miami on Friday? Do you lose to Toronto on Saturday? Again, 2 more key games in the standings here. Things are tight. And as we said, we were excited about this team approaching the top of the standings, Jimmy, right? They were like 3 games back of the Pistons for 1 after the stretch that they had before Milwaukee. They're also closer to falling into the play-in tournament, the low end of the play-in tournament, by like a game at that point. So little room for error in the East, a couple losses, and they've now suffered them here, dropped them down to, let's see exactly where they are in the standings now, only 4th. But you're only...
I'm not looking at standings right now. It's too soon for looking at standings. I think,
but just to put it in perspective, you're 1 game above the Heat, who are here on Friday, who are in the 9th seed. So you lose on Friday, you're down the 9th seed, and it's a whole different conversation.
Right. Listen, I think the record right now, the records are the records. You play 1 game at a time. You got to wait until All-Star break to start looking at standings and things like that, and really start to position yourself. I think if you're the Celtics, or if you're Celtics fans, you're thrilled to be where you are right now. But I think if you're the Celtics, you might not be thrilled. You might say, no, we expected this. We believe in ourselves. We feel like we can play better. We feel like we've left some losses out there. I don't know if you look at this game and say, if you're the Celtics and say, oh, we should have won this game. I think they fought hard. I think they lost to the better team. I think Detroit is going to be in there until the end. I'm impressed with Detroit.
Noah tweeted during the game, Cade's the most impressive player she's seen this year, I believe. I said after the last game, Detroit's the most impressive team I'd seen in person this year. Obviously, we haven't seen Oklahoma City in person or a couple other teams that are in that mix. Right. That group's awesome. The depth, the best player, the contributors around them, the coaching.
Well, the depth.
I still lean New York winning the East, but this team has a strong case here.
Yeah, I kind of like Detroit just because New York just seems like a team to blow it. They just.
Well, Detroit almost beat them last year, if you remember.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just the way I think about the Knicks organization. But you mentioned the word depth, Bobby, and you talk about Cunningham versus Brown. That was a close matchup tonight. I wouldn't go off as far as to say that Cunningham beat Brown. I think both guys were going toe-to-toe for a lot of this game, and Brown had some really, really nice plays. I loved his effort. I loved his creativity, getting to the basket, getting to the paint. I thought he did everything right except those last few minutes. Honestly, that's the difference in this one between those 2 players. But for me, if you look back on this game, Bobby, and I mentioned it not too long ago, but you said the word depth. There was no depth for the Celtics tonight. They were a 2-headed monster. They were brown and white, right? I mean, after that, I know you liked Cade's performance, and I did as well, but offensively, he's only going to give you so much. Pritchard gave you just 12 points. Simons gave you 9.
Cade was setting guys up all game, so
no.
He wasn't in a lot of positions to score.
Right. No, I hats off to Cade tonight. I'm just saying, if you're looking for guys to fill the bucket, he's going to be the guy setting guys up. He's not going to be the guy doing it. Your bench did next to nothing tonight, though. A combined 0 from Shireman, Minot, obviously Hauser got hurt. You got 5 from Ugo, which again, you don't really think you're expecting much from him. And then Simons gave you just 9 off the bench because you talked about it. He's not a guy that's getting that consistent playing time. He's not a guy that's really been able to get into the flow of things. And it's showing, 3 of 9 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3. He's in there to score buckets. He's in there to hit threes. And if he's getting this spotty playing time, and then you throw him in there in like the most important part of the game. And again, he had that nice play at the rim, but he's not being put in a position to give you what he's good at giving you. So you're not getting that offensive production. And then Walsh, I think, Walsh gave you 8 and 6. I think that's
what's
more
funny,
along the
Jimmy?
line what you could expect from him. What?
When you talk about the scoring depth, let's count off the best offensive players in this team. It's obviously Brown, White, Pritchard, Simons, and then Walsh might be 5th.
That's the problem. And that's exactly what the problem is, Bobby. And again, they've been shooting well. These guys coming off the bench have been shooting percentage-wise extremely well. I think
But on low volume, limited opportunities.
Exactly. Low volume. But if you just want to do percentages,
I'll say that.
You're the small sample sizes guy. But if you just want to go off percentages, they are shooting very well. And sometimes that is the difference, right? I mean, it could be the difference in a game. If a couple of guys are hitting a couple more shots than they typically would hit. Now, if that comes back down to earth, and again, Minot didn't hit a shot tonight. Scheiman didn't hit a shot tonight. Again, Walsh only took a few, and Gonzalez took a few. You're starting to scratch and claw for points. Jaylen Brown is doing everything he can right now. 15th game of 30-plus points. And Derek White, obviously
8 over the last 9.
8 over the last 9. You can't really ask him to play much better than he is, game to game overall. And again, the turnovers are another story. Frustrating misses at the free throw line in the fourth quarter. I'd like to know that. I'd like to know what his fourth quarter free throw percentage is over his career. You don't need to look that up now, but yeah, it would be interesting. Because those are the ones I just recall. Obviously,
that's always been his weakness. He's really struggled there throughout his career.
Been his weakness.
Which is weird because he's such a great mid-range shooter. And as you say that, the pressure that's on him, the reliance on him, he was up to like 5th or 6th in the MVP ladder last week, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
We said it over and over again.
What's he like, 5th in overall points, something like that? Total points scored?
Yeah, he's around the top 5 in total points. And we said it over and over again. He's been available for all but one game, the Washington game he rested. And it's a scary thought to think about what they'd look like without him on any given night, never mind against the best team in the East here. You do have a real question right now about this team scoring, creation, depth, how they're getting their offense to, jump shooting, whether from mid-range or 3-point land. We talked about that on Thursday. There aren't a lot of other elements to this offense. It was nice they got to the free throw line a little bit more in this one. A lot of that was Jaylen. Obviously, he had 14 of the 27. Mid-range shooting, as we talk about it, it's mostly Jaylen and Pritchard. So even though they do have a couple different outlets to score from, it's mostly the same guys. And that is where we get into that Simons conversation where it's like, all right, you do want him ready to go if he does need to step up into a larger role at some point here, because he's been nice. And I was saying this the other day to someone, it's nice that he's settled into that bench role and he gives you 10, 15 points every night, and you just know what you're getting from Simons, and he's probably comfortable doing what he's doing at this point. But then we have dreams of him coming in and
10, 15 points. I mean, he's barely getting you that as of late. I mean, barely since, late November.
What's his average for the season at this point? I'd guess around 10.
Yeah, his average for the season is 13. But if you look back,
more single digits of late, 3 of the last 4
exactly.
games.
I mean, if you go back to late November, 5 points. Then he had one game of 18. Then he's just kind of barely scratching double digits, right? 12 points here, 8 points, 7, 9. So that's what I'm concerned about, Bobby. And that was my concern to start the year. Where are the points coming from? And that was when I was thinking that Simons was going to get you.
By the way, this has been the number 1 team in offense over the last couple of weeks.
I know. And that's the crazy thing about it. And that's why my mind is blown talking about it. But then
it's a Herculean effort.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it again and again,
I just wonder how much of it is
sustainable.
real. Yeah, sustainable is the word.
I mean, yeah, when you look at what they've done from mid-range, when you looked at the three-point shooting stretch that they were on from beginning of November right into the start of this month, the ways that they can't score at the rim, free throws most nights, including tonight, even though you got the attempts, cutting, you don't do a lot of that. Transition, you don't do a lot of that. The boards in a game like this, you're going to lose that. I mean, you got to make all your shots to be competitive here from all the different areas on the floor. And so much of it's been Pritchard. So much of it's been Jaylen. A little bit of Derek getting going lately too, which I guess you could be optimistic about coming out of this one. It's exactly what we said coming into the year, Jimmy. There's so much on White, Pritchard, and Brown's shoulders. They've done a sensational, phenomenal job so far to this
Pritchard,
point.
I'm not giving you that on Pritchard.
You don't think he's been good?
Sensational, phenomenal. I think Pritchard has been fine. I think there's been a lot of games where Pritchard has been below average, and I think there's been some more games as of late. Sure, he puts up to 42-point performance against Cleveland. Of course,
33 from 3 for the season, lower than I would have guessed.
There's been a lot of games, Bobby, where Pritchard has not been helpful to the point where they needed him to be.
No, and I mean, I talked about
it because they're getting 30 plus from Jaylen every night.
Yeah,
he's saving all of these guys from.
And we know what White did to begin the year. White said this morning he felt like he didn't make a three over the first couple weeks of the season. So yeah, those guys were shooting horribly. They're taking care of the ball, so you give them credit for that. I think filling some other areas of impact. But the shooting has not been their plus skill this year. As a team, really. I mean, this has been a bottom half shooting team for most of the year, Jimmy. And what's going to power them to being a good team, a great team potentially this year, is that shooting. And I'll give them credit. They found other ways to counteract it. The offensive rebound's been a nice plus this year. They've been excellent at that. They limit the turnovers. It's rare to see them lose a turnover battle like they did here in this one, but they did that here. It feels like they need to be perfect alongside the effort that Jaylen's giving you every night to win games against this caliber of a team. And listen, they've gotten to that level. I think you're more than affirm, Jimmy, in questioning the sustainability of this right now, especially as they get into some tougher opponents, especially if injury strike. I mean, that was part of this game. How's it going down? Foul trouble and the rotation going haywire. And your center position is one guy at the moment. So I'm interested to hear Noah's take here. I am a little concerned about the sustainability of this start. It feels like we're looking at a house that's beautiful, that's got all the fixings, that's, clean. Yeah, there's just everything you love in this house. And it's like tiny sticks underneath holding it up.
We're going to get Noah on in just a second. Before we do, I want to tell everybody about our great friends at Prize Picks, and then we'll get Noah's opinion. So as a reminder, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It is the holiday season, the best time of year, not just for gift giving, Bobby, or gift receiving, but for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, football playoffs. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that is Prize Picks. It's available all over the US of A. Right now, it's the best place to get your fantasy sports action. And there's a new feature as well. It now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out of those winnings before the game even finishes. You just pick more or less on some guys that you're going to feel like watching that day by. Sit down on the couch, Christmas morning, get your basketball slate. You're going more, right? You want to be cheering guys on. You want to be happy. You want to be feeling the holiday spirit. So you go more on these guys. You just let it ride. You've also got the thing I like about Prize Picks as well is how straightforward it is. You don't have to spend a lot of time calculating your payouts. They make it easy with their payout multiplier, whether it's a simple 3x or a big 2000x. How about that? Prize Picks makes it easy to understand how much you can win. It now offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You want to pick more on Steph Curry's points, 3-pointers, and assists. Now you can pick all of them at the same lineup. Actually, I would do that with Jaylen Brown right now, the way he's playing. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. And it's good to be us on the Garden Report because Noa Dalzell is going to join us here. Get her up on the show. I will do that. Add her to the stage here. Whoops, I screwed it up. You do it, Amit. Sorry. There she is. Noa.
What's up, guys?
What's Gucci? Fun game tonight. Not a fun ending, but I think we would agree this was an entertaining one. Two teams that looked like they were ready for playoff basketball. It kind of felt like those were the vibes, at least watching it on television. What were you feelings, thoughts, emotions after this game? What went wrong? What went right?
Yeah, this was kind of a tricky one to parse through, in my opinion. And I was curious to see what players would say after this. And Jaylen Brown, Joe Mazzulla, everybody kind of agreed that they met the physicality, they played with the right kind of intention, but they just didn't make enough plays. And I think you can go back to the shooting. And yes, they missed some easy shots. It was a weird night for Derek, who asked him about his shooting, and he was like, "Yeah, I either made it or I airballed in this game." Which actually, now that he said it, like that, it was kind of a weird kind of sequence there. But I don't know. I also thought there were some plays that they didn't make that they have been making. Like there was one possession where the Pistons got like 2 or 3 offensive rebounds, and Jordan was like right there, and he just kind of missed it. And I remember
Was
thinking,
that
like,
the one they called timeout after?
Yes. There was a few moments in this game that it felt like it wasn't just the shooting, like some uncharacteristic turnovers. Yeah, and then like the Payton airball 3 at the top of the key kind of perfectly encapsulated how this was just yeah, that was like the most shocking, perfect execution,
great by Cade.
wide open. Yeah.
Nice set play at a timeout. Yeah, and they might have been in trouble by that point, but yeah, weird shooting.
It was just
night.
like weird moments like that. So I don't know. It felt like the general vibe on the team is that it wasn't like a lack of effort or they played poorly like in the Bucks game. Jaylen's words were the most kind of, they resonated with me more than anything that anybody said, where he felt like he just didn't do enough. And I do feel like down the stretch he could have been better. Obviously, he leaves 7 free throws on the board, which in a game that they lose by 7, like you definitely go back and look at those. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's a reason why the Pistons are the best team in the East. They're 21-5. You know, like this, they found ways to win games where they haven't played well. Joe said in pregame they're 10-0 in clutch games entering tonight. Now they're 11-0. So there's a lot of things that maybe you would have gotten away with against a team that's been less consistent. But Detroit's earned their spot, and I think so far of all the teams they faced, this is clearly the best team in the Eastern Conference.
What happened to Boston in that fourth quarter? Just sloppiness, or was it something Detroit was doing? It just felt like every time the Celtics got close, they kind of shot themselves in the foot there with a turnover or letting Detroit go on a little mini run. Is there anything to that, or was it just simply Detroit just kind of stepped up when they needed to the most?
Yeah, and they were aggressive, and I feel like a lot of the catches were kind of pushed farther out. Like there was a lot of plays that seemed like they were pushed a little bit further out, which is a credit to the Pistons defense. But yeah, I mean, Derek hit some big ones that even gave them a chance to be in this one. Like if he doesn't shoot well, this ends even more difficultly. And the other thing that stood out is Jordan Walsh. I have the box score in front of me here. He played 18 minutes in this game, and we talked
about Jimmy. I mean, I know they got away from him late.
Yeah, they got away from him, and Joe didn't have like a super comprehensive answer, but basically he liked Anthony's effort in this one. He liked his defense. He can give them some offense, but that doesn't bode great for them to have him be on the floor for 17 minutes, because we know he has been one of the plus-minus leaders for this team, and they've been better, frankly, with him on the floor over the last 13 games. So earlier on, some of it was foul trouble, and then Joe has done a pretty good job of kind of figuring out combinations and who's going to be on the floor. So I don't fault him too much for this one, but if hindsight being 2020, like I probably would have rather see Jordan be out there a little bit more in that fourth quarter, just because, yeah, he has just been a net positive for them on the floor. And it's not like he had a bad offensive game or anything like that. He has 8 points on 2 of 3 shooting. Like he was fine. 6 rebounds in 17 minutes. He had some big plays. So 2 steals. Like he
It
just
just
fouled
felt
a
like-
bit, but I don't really know why he didn't play more. I would have liked to see him play down the stretch in the fourth quarter a little bit more.
I think he took himself out of the game, obviously picking up that third foul in the second quarter, I believe it was, right? Kind of early on in the second quarter. And so, again, this was a physical game. This was a game with a lot of emotion and intensity. I think as a young player, it's probably a lot harder for some of these guys to know how to harness it or when to harness it or when to exert it. And I think Jordan Walsh is a guy that you're not going to question. I don't think anyone's ever questioned Jordan Walsh's like effort out there or his, willingness to, want to step up or stop the opponent or whatever. But I think sometimes he gets a little bit ahead of his skates and he put himself in a position where he sat on the bench. And I think that hurt him.
So I
in the
disagree,
second
Jimmy.
half. Why do you disagree?
Because they had the opportunity to play him late. I mean, how many does he finish with here? 4? And we just had that debate.
No, they had the opportunity to play him late, but I think he never got himself into any sort of rhythm that allowed Joe to feel confident playing him late. I don't think Jordan Walsh at any point in this game was really stopping anybody. He wasn't doing anything on the offensive end, and I don't think Joe had any real reason to be like, we're sticking with Jordan Walsh tonight. He's, done X, Y, and Z to put us in this position, and we feel like, if we lose him out there, fine. I think Joe basically said, I'm looking down the bench here. I see Walsh took himself out of the game. I see Minot. I had to take him out of the game. Shireman is Shireman, not really doing much. And
Ugo started the second half, Jimmy.
Hauser got
fouled
hurt
twice and was gone.
I hate that line. Shireman is Shireman, not really doing much.
I mean,
it's just a crazy
friend of the
line.
show.
Stop me when I'm wrong, but
friend of the show.
And yeah, friend of the show.
I think
listen, Listen, my point is none of those guys, and I mentioned it earlier, Noah. Depth was the story tonight. You got the production from the stars. Detroit got their production from Cade. Celtics got their production from Brown and from White. The difference was Detroit got their production from their bench, and they got it from basically the reserve guys. Boston didn't. I can't think of anybody that other than Cade, who's not filling it up points wise. Nobody really stood out to me on this Celtics team that helped Brown or helped White put them over the top. And I'm putting Walsh in that category tonight too. And whether or not it's because Joe didn't play him in the fourth, I don't know. I don't think he did anything before that to really warrant getting the time. So Joe went with Simons thinking, hey, maybe we can catch a little bit of lightning in the bottle there. But Simons hasn't, it wasn't really Simons' night either, although he did have that one nice basket at the rim there that kind of sparked them for a second, but just ultimately wasn't enough.
Two things that are interesting. Once again, they are a positive with Cade on the floor. They were a +5 in his 34 minutes. So, they try other things. Obviously, they haven't played another center except for Cade and Josh Minot. And even at times tonight, I think like Ugo was the center.
Ugo was at center. We said it, Noah. Their first center's Cade, their second center's Minot, their third center's Walsh, and their fourth center's Ugo now.
Well, to be fair, the Pistons didn't really have a center out there for those stretches too. So if both teams kind of call it even, then that's fine. But honestly, it continues to be a point of emphasis for me in my head as I think about this team and potential trade moves or down the stretch. Like they are a positive team with Cade on the floor, and sometimes they're just not when he's off the floor. And I think that's a little bit of an indictment on what the other options are. Obviously they've gone away from Luka Garza and Xavier Tillman and all of that, and there's been some good things with the small ball 5, but if they have another center, because in this game he plays 34 minutes, it's not like he got in foul trouble or he couldn't be out there for his wind or anything. Like he played that's a good minutes for a center, right? Like you don't really need any more. So I'm just thinking like they have one more guy that they trust in that spot, and that's a hard thing to get. Cade is not like a dime a dozen right now. Like it's pretty hard to actually get somebody that can fulfill the role that he's playing, so he deserves the credit for that. But one more guy in that spot, and I think they'd be in really good shape right now. Like, were you going to bring up Luke, Bobby? Do you want me to do it? If Luke's here, having Luke and Cade right now would be a luxury of goods, which we just wouldn't have thought a year and a half ago. So it remains the case. Yeah, Luke's been awesome in San Antonio. I was actually looking.
I need that shirt. Can I get that shirt, please?
Yeah, we can get it for your birthday, Bobby. We can
Jimmy
and I can work that out.
Well, John brought up the question. I think it was John a couple of games ago. Like, who would have thought that last year, if you could have had the choice to keep 2 of the 4 centers, you would have chose Luke and Cade.
Yeah.
and you would have let Porzingis and Horford go, and unfortunately Porzingis.
Poor Porzingis.
Yeah, he's. Oh, jeez.
Whoa!
Down I go. Down I go.
That is actually a good point, though. Like I was
Another
looking at
center
the
down.
the numbers of the departed Celtics, and yeah, Luke's been the most consistent available player. Like Drew, Al, KP, they've all dealt with various injuries. Drew's was awesome before he got hurt, but yeah, Luke's the one you probably wish you could
And
still
he beat
have.
the
So
Thunder the other night.
yeah, I mean he and the Spurs did, but yes.
Sorry about that. That hurt.
But yes, that was one of the things. And then the other thing that I noticed is, amazingly, they were a +9 in Ugo's 16 minutes, and should have been a +13 because he had 2 really bad plays that I don't know if you guys have talked about yet. But he came in for a defensive sub, I think at the end of the third quarter for Anthony Simons, immediately gets beat off the dribble, and then on the next play loses the ball, bringing it up, and they score another layup. So it was just like a quick -4 points in his 30 seconds. He came over and like punched the chair. Cade and Derek both came up to him and were like, "It's okay, Ugo." But something that I've been thinking a lot about in the last few days, and I wrote a story about this for Celtics blog yesterday, but a big focus for player development is figuring out how do you get what's happening.
I'm trying to get this
Is
over.
this musical
I just can't do
chairs?
it. I'm trying to get it over. Just keep talking. Don't
We
worry
good?
about me. There we go.
Why does it matter if I'm in the middle or Bobby's in the middle?
It's just the way it
I don't
goes.
know. Let's just leave it.
Okay.
No, I just want
So,
to be on the left.
my-
I don't really care where you guys go.
So my point being, I think there's a certain layer of like Ugo's going to make mistakes and he's going to play through it. And it's a big point of player development and growth is figuring out how to bounce back from a couple of bad possessions. Joe was just saying that, and then Ugo comes in and it was bad possessions, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is like his learning process. This is part of being a rookie and coming in for a specific assignment of playing defense and then like just not doing that well, right? And for the most part, that hasn't really been his season, but in this game, like I'm looking back at like where they could have made a couple extra plays. Like that was a really costly sequence. You know, the free throws were costly.
I'm sorry. The more I think about it, you got to leave Walsh in late the way he's playing lately. I know you want more offense. I know you want to have a more threatening lineup out there from a shooting perspective. You hadn't been shooting great in this game.
I don't
but
know
he
that
had
that's
3
why, actually. I don't know that that's the real answer.
I don't know. That's what he said, but
Yeah, I
who
guess you gotta
knows?
go with what
Maybe
he
they
said.
didn't like how he was guarding Cade. Maybe they didn't like the fouling that he was doing. Could have been a million different reasons you didn't have him in this game. But given the role he's assumed on this team at this point, and this is what they were playing him like coming into tonight, he is a guy that you let play through some stuff. And Ugo started the second half. I guess that was foul related. He comes right out, and it's Shireman into the game 2 minutes later. I do feel like they should have rolled with Walsh more than they did here. And yes, you have to manage the fouls to some degree so he doesn't foul out like he did against Toronto. But you've said it in the past, Noah, the only person who puts someone in foul trouble is the coach. And when you remove someone from the game, that's your decision ultimately there. Like you can roll with a guy through some foul trouble, keep him active and involved, get him shots, get him looks. And that's what's made him such a powerful, impactful player over the last couple of weeks here. It's not the reason that they lost this game. I'm not saying that. But I do wish that they rolled with him late. Because honestly, I'm a little skeptical of where the Simons experiment is going.
Well, you're a Simons hater.
I mean, it just is what it is at this point. They've put him in that position. So why try to switch it up when the roles over the last couple of weeks and the reason that this team has been successful is you've had that defensive stopper out there who can give you a little bit of offense, give you rebounding. And that's what Walsh has become. I mean, he's scoring more lately than Pritchard is, Noah, coming into tonight over the last, however many games.
Yeah, honestly, the more I think about it, and I'm glad Joe was asked the question, but very rarely do I feel like the question of why did this player play more ever actually yield the answer that I would like the real clarity. Like I'm sure there's a lot there that he's not sharing with us. One thing I was thinking just in real time, and maybe when I rewatch it, I'll have a better sense if that's accurate or not, but because he was in foul trouble, I felt like he just wasn't playing as aggressively defensively because that's what happens when you have 4 fouls in the third quarter. And when you're Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum or even Derek White and you're in foul trouble, like your value of being on the floor far exceeds maybe whatever aggression you're giving up to avoid fouling. If you're Jordan Walsh and you're playing like you're in foul trouble, you kind of may as well not be out there. And that's something that I just said in real time watching him play. It was like 1 or 2 possessions where he seemed slightly less aggressive than he has been over these past 13 games when he's established himself as this like elite defender. So I don't know if that was part of it, or Joe felt like, okay, well, the way that he's playing right now is a little too tentative. In that case, I feel like the message would just be, okay, Jordan, go pick up your 2 fouls and then you'll be out of the game, rather than, you still left 2 on the board. So that was the reason that it feels like that could have been a little fixable. But certainly one of the things that stands out from this game is the fact that, they didn't get nearly as much from Jordan as they have in recent weeks. And at the end of the day, like, he has kind of been the reason for this turnaround, because they did turn things around, right? They did rattle off 10 wins in 12 games. And it wasn't just him. It was a couple different things, Derek finding his rhythm, Jaylen continuing to play at an all NBA level. But that was one of the big tweaks, right? Is his insertion into the starting lineup. So tonight felt like, I don't think it's going to last, but a little bit of regression on that front where they just didn't get as much from him.
Yeah, I'm also curious, watching back, we'll figure it out a little bit, why he only gets 3 shots in a game like this. So I don't know. It's a small second guess out of this one. Obviously, Jaylen left a lot of points on the board and plays on the floor, and defensively they got beat a bunch of times down the stretch. But it is tough. I mean, the dagger, Noah, was Cade over Derek, and that's obviously going to be Jordan in that position if he's on the floor. So, I think that one stacks up pretty high out of this one of things maybe you do differently. But my general feeling out of this one, I said it earlier, Noah, is it depends how you feel about this team. Like, if you want to say you're up there with the best of the East, you can make a deep run into the playoffs with the team that you have. I believe in this team. You want them to win a game like this. If you just want them to be competitive, stack up with the best teams in the league, fight, go down to the wire, which is what they've done for a lot of this year, I think you're okay with a game like this, especially after beating them last time. So I think there's mixed feelings coming out of this one. I am starting to get a little concerned about 2 things, though, Noah. The center thing, what we've talked about, I just don't know how sustainable it is to play Cade or Minot and have nothing else there effectively. And they do feel like they're starting to get a little reliant on jump shots going in. Not only threes, of course, but the mid-rangers as well.
Noah?
Sorry, I'm trying to send the Derek White audio.
Damn it, Bobby.
No, I think the one, to your point, Bobby, about like whether you kind of live with this loss, I kind of fumbled this question to Derek, but that's kind of what I wanted to ask them. And obviously it's a little different when you're a player, but is this the kind of loss that, as a player, if you have to live with the loss, it's this kind of game, where they do feel like they met the physicality, they feel like they got good looks, and they're playing the best team in the East. Players are never going to really feel that way. I mean, you saw Jaylen's demeanor, like that's not the way he feels. From my standpoint, though, this is the kind of loss you can live with, because they very much could have won this game. I wouldn't hate their chances in a 7-game series against the Pistons. They wouldn't be favored, but it wouldn't be a nightmare matchup. They've had 3 games so far against Detroit. All 3 have gone down to the wire. All 3 come down to a handful of plays. And in games 1 and 3, they didn't make enough plays. And in games 2, they did. So that's kind of how I reckon with it. The losses that you can't have is the Brooklyn Nets loss, the Utah Jazz loss, the Milwaukee Bucks loss. Like those 3 right away, as I look at their record, what are they 15-11 now? Those 3 I would like to see fixed. What happened?
I was going to say this earlier to you, Jimmy. Did you see the Bucks went on and lost by 45 to Brooklyn after beating the Celtics?
Yeah, that was tough. I did.
And they had guys on the bench saying, wait, we're losing to this team? And Doc was like, what? What? Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
hilarious.
We're 500.
He was like, we're 11-16. What do you mean this team?
Come on, do your Doc voice, Noah.
I don't have a Doc voice. I don't do impersonations.
The tough part, Noah, if you want this to be a great season, I said this to Jimmy earlier, you're 1 game over the Heat, who are the 9 seed now. So they come in and beat you on Friday, you are spiraling down the standings, and we're having a different conversation. So I'm not trying to go panic mode. I don't know if you want to do panic meter, Jimmy, but I am sounding a small alarm that this start's been great. I've loved it. I'm a believer in this team, but this is where you have to start to tighten up a little bit. 2 losses in a row, tough stretch coming up. It's a back-to-back Friday and Saturday. You had some time coming into this week with the cup going on, and you just completely laid an egg in Milwaukee, a team that you should beat. So I'm just saying, I believe in this team. I've said that they're going to exceed expectations this year, but then you have to hold them to that standard. And you've mentioned all the losses, Noah, that have been disappointing. This isn't among them, but they've had enough of those where you're going to look back at the end of the year and say, ooh, like if they were going to be a 45, 46 plus win team, you had to have this, and this win because you were healthy. Things were going great. You had your full complement of players at that point, and things could go wrong beyond what have already occurred this season. We were just saying before you came on, Noah, can you imagine in a non-Wizards environment if Jaylen had to miss a game for this team?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be great.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I'll say is there have been some moments where they've been able to, like, I wouldn't have thought they could beat the Pistons without Cade, or the Cavs without Derek and Cade. Like, they've had some moments this season where other players have just stepped up. You know, Payton gives them 42 in that game. Amari Williams plays 15 minutes. You know, like, they've had some moments where they've done things that I didn't
Hold
really
on.
expect.
You threw Amari's name out there. Should they be actually taking a look there, given what's going on at center?
I'm sure they took a look. I don't know what the difference was between, obviously last game they didn't have Cade, so they had to fill those minutes, and they do a lot of small ball, but they also have him, you know, eat 15 of those. In this game, they have Cade playing 34, so they didn't have quite the need, but he was here. He was active. He was the only 2A that was available to play. He warmed up. I mean, he missed about a week with that hand hairline fracture, but he's playing. He played yesterday in Maine. He looked pretty good. So I'm sure he was an option, and I'm sure he had no idea if he was going to play because he didn't have an idea last time. So I'm not sitting here being like, I think he was the difference in this one, because it's not like he did anything spectacular.
No, I'm saying going forward.
Yeah, I'm sure you're looking at him. I mean, I don't think they'd have him in Boston if they didn't think he was close.
Yeah.
Like if they thought that this guy is just a raw developmental prospect and he's going to need the year for sure in Maine, he would still be in Maine right now. You know, like they've clearly turned to him in spots, whether that's the closeout on Evan Mobley or even just a foul on Mitchell Robinson. Like they're comfortable with him out there. In this game, they didn't use him.
I'm just saying, Jimmy.
I don't know if the word is
going on at
comfortable.
center.
They're comfortable with him being an option. I'm not saying, obviously if they maybe that's not the best way to put it. They're comfortable with him being an option. Like he's sitting on the bench. If Cade had walked out with a sprained ankle instead of Sam Hauser, I think Joe would have probably called Amari Williams' number at some point. But nothing about this game to me demanded like, okay, nothing's working. We need Amari Williams. Like I can understand why he didn't play, but I mean, we'll see how the year goes. Maybe they acquire some depth in the front court position in the deadline. Maybe they lose some, and I'm sure that will help. That'll help kind of determine how the rest of the season goes.
Let me ask you guys this. Just because we're talking, you know, Bobby, you mentioned it. You're not hitting the panic meter. You're not hitting the panic button yet, but your antennas are up a little bit. Obviously, this team got off to a start that I think the majority of maybe basketball fans or Celtics fans were somewhat surprised about. Now, I'm not saying, I know there's Celtics fans out there that thought Celtics would be 25-0, and this isn't a surprise to them, right? But I think there were a lot of fans closer to me who thought that they would be a fringe playoff team. So seeing the Celtics in the 3rd seed, whatever it was today, it's probably not something that a lot of people anticipated happening. Now, whether or not they can stay there is the question. My question to you guys is, what's more likely to find its equilibrium? Is it Jaylen Brown's unbelievable play? He's averaging near 30 points a game. I think maybe even 30 exactly at this point or close to it. Or is it, you know, Noah, you tweeted a couple games ago how percentage-wise how well the Celtics, you know, bench guys have been shooting. Tonight they didn't get really much of anything from their bench, from their you know, depth guys. Didn't get much from even really guys like Pritchard either offensively. But what do you see more likely to happen? The bench coming back down to earth, because you were getting a lot of production from, I shouldn't say a lot, but you were getting good production from, you know, the Walshes, the Minots, you know, guys like that, let's say. Or is, you know, Jaylen Brown going to be able to continue this torrid pace this season? I mean, obviously he's probably going to miss more than one game the rest of the way, but when he is playing, do you anticipate all this happening and staying the way it is, or do you anticipate any of this changing for better or for worse? Maybe there's players in the Celtics that you anticipate playing better than they have been.
Yeah, the shooting's so weird. Go ahead, Noah.
No, I was going to say right now, Ugo, Jordan, Josh, Baylor are all shooting like 45%-ish from three. That doesn't feel sustainable. That's going to probably go down. They're also attempting like 1 or 2 threes apiece, so it's not like super high volume stuff that's going to completely derail the offense. But I just think that's a really high number. I mean, Jordan came into tonight shooting 49% from three. That's pretty wild, right? He's 60% from the field. So that's going to go down a little. I think that's just a classic like regression from the mean. And then I look at Peyton and Derek, they're still below their numbers. I still think Sam Hauser is going to move back up. I mean, he's at 34% on the season. Jack Simone pointed out to me today that he was 34% this time last year as well, and obviously finished the year shooting above 40%. So to answer your question, like, I think everybody's kind of going to regress to the mean. I don't think Jaylen's been playing over his head. Maybe the availability has been awesome. Like, he plays 40 minutes again in this one. He's only missed one game, and that was with an illness that I'm sure he probably maybe would have been able to play through if it was a different matchup. So that's the part of Jaylen's game that I'm like, is he going to be able to play all these games and play this heavy minutes and shoulder this load? But it's not like he's been on a crazy heater. Like, he's not shooting from three exceptionally well. The mid-range has been awesome, but it feels like he's just getting clean looks, and it's just shots that he has figured out how to kind of get to his spot and draw fouls and all that. So
making it
I don't
easier
know.
for himself in a way.
Yeah, I think Jaylen's kind of in the position that I expect him to stay in throughout the year. Like, I don't feel like he's playing above the level that he's gonna conclude the season with. Maybe I look back and be like, oh yeah, the first few months he was awesome, but everybody else, there's some guys that are gonna, rise up and some guys that are gonna rise back down. And I think when the year's over, you won't see Jordan Wall shooting 50% from three and Sam Hauser shooting 34. Like, I think that's gonna even out a little bit. Maybe not.
I think
but
some of those regressions are going to be canceled out by, guys like maybe Pritchard and Hauser.
That's the thing. Yeah, I feel like it's gonna probably even out because the higher volume players are the ones that have been struggling, and then the lower volume players are the ones that have been on fire. So even though it's like a larger amount of guys that have been shooting well, all it takes is Derek, Peyton, Sam. Those are your high volume 3-point shooters. So that matters more ultimately.
Sam, does he have to miss some time here? Sam's the killer. I mean, we don't talk a lot about him because he just typically does what he does, and you expect it. And then when it's not there, everyone freaks out. But we were stacking up the 5 best offensive players on the team now, and Walsh is in the mix right now only because Sam has struggled this year for a lot of it, and now he's hurt. It's a tough year for Sam, especially coming off the 0 for 10. You wanted more from him this year. You looked at him as a starter coming in. He ends up right on the bench, like only a couple games in. And as we've talked about, the style, what this team needs, doesn't necessarily lean toward him the way it has Walsh and Minot and some others here. So, when we talk about the offensive and shooting issues with this team, a lot of it would be solved in some ways by a more steady Hauser performance this year. So, you're looking for a little bit more from him, certainly. We don't talk a lot about him. We don't get on him for his productivity much because either the ball is going in the net or it's not. It's a kind of a tough discussion around him. But this was a game where you missed him rotation-wise. The last 2, you've missed his shooting that basically disappeared from the lineup for different reasons on both nights. So, yeah, you can't afford to lose guys right now. Everybody on this roster they've called on for certain things. Whenever they lose a single player, you're going to notice in some way. And I actually do feel like Hauser's absence in this one played a significant role in the team not having enough spacing for stretches, not having enough shooting for the entirety of the game, obviously. And it's a small story this season that he, after you decide to keep him over the offseason, maybe over some other different options that you had, hasn't had the best year. I'm not getting on him. His defense has been great. He's rebounded a little bit better. He's done some stuff on the move that I've liked. But his job is to put the ball in the basket. And he's at, 36-ish rather than the 40-plus that he usually is here. So that could turn around. Who knows how bad this injury is here. Tough to lose him in this one if he is going to miss some time, though. And obviously you have 3 days coming up that'll help him get back on the floor for Friday, because that is a big one on Friday against another team that's in the same conversation as you, that's trying to stay relevant, that's coached their ass off this year to be better than anybody thought they could be. I'm excited for Heat Celtics on Friday. That's a matchup we haven't seen yet, and obviously always is a very relevant one in the East hierarchy here. A little bit of urgency this week, I feel like, for this team. They got a couple practices. They got to come out Friday and Saturday with some great play to reestablish themselves in the standings here, because, again, you could fall fast with another loss or two.
Yeah, and the Heat have been on a little bit of a downward trajectory. They've just won 4 of their last 10 games, but I think they've had a similar kind of punching above their weight feel to them that the Celtics have had at times this season. So it'll be a good matchup. It'll be good to see how they fare in TD, and obviously it's always fun when those two teams match up. But the one thing that is just good to note, the 3 through 9 in the Eastern Conference standings kind of reminds me of last year's 3 through 9 in the West, where everything is super close. I have a feeling it's going to go down to the last couple of weeks of the season, the standings, because a lot of these teams seem pretty evenly matched. I mean, Detroit and New York seem like they're a little bit in a different tier as far as their consistency night in and night out. But outside of that, like you have the Raptors, the Celtics, the Magic, the 76ers, the Cavs, the Hawks, like the Heat, they're all, depending on the night, different teams have looked much better than others, but they're all right now like a game apart from each other. And I don't really see that separating. So I think at the end of the day, yeah, we will probably be looking back at every single game if they are trying to make a playoff run and positioning and all of that. So yeah, Friday's another good one to try to create some separation there, and to see a team that's one of the few Eastern Conference teams they haven't seen so far.
Anything in tonight's game that before we officially move on? I think we'll end up talking about this game again someday. I know last show we said would probably never talk about. I don't even know who they played. Who did they play the last game and lose to? Yeah, the Bucks. Said we'd probably never talk about that game again. Only reason we would talk about it, Bobby, and you said, is if it was the beginning of the end, if we have to refer back to it someday. So tonight's game, I guess, did not help that. Maybe we do refer back to it someday. But I think this Pistons game was a good litmus test for where the Celtics are, and I think they are right. I think they kind of are what they showed to be tonight. I think they're, at heart, I think they are a two-headed monster. And on any given night, they can get some help from other guys in the team. But on some of those same nights, they could give you absolutely nothing. Meaning, Minot, Shireman, Hauser gave you nothing because he got hurt, but he's been giving you nothing recently. Walsh didn't give you much tonight. Obviously, that hasn't been the case as of late. But who's the real Jordan Walsh? Who's the real Josh Minot? We're not really sure who those guys are. I think we know who Jaylen Brown is. I think we know who Derek White is. Pritchard, for the most part, we know of, but he's had an up and down year. I think this game, and we know the Celtics are gonna play with energy, effort, all that stuff, toughness, and I think they showed that for the majority of this game. I think they hit a little bit of a wall at the end of that fourth quarter there, and some costly turnovers and a couple of bad missed free throws by Brown ended up being the difference, I think, from their comeback bid. So I think this is kind of where they are right now.
Yeah, my last thought coming out of this one, and listen, I have my concerns about where they're headed right now. I definitely don't love this loss, and there's, as I said throughout, 7-8 plays from this one that you want back probably. But some silver lining from Derek at the end, who does seem like he's turning the corner in terms of his offensive output and his comfort and ability creating off the dribble. I know he talked a little bit this morning, Noah, about that being the biggest difference for him this year, is he does have to do a lot more off the bounce. We've talked about that. Statistically, that shows as well. The stuff he did down the stretch that nearly saved them was awesome and really difficult, and continues to show, even though he's had his ups and downs. He's carrying a massive weight on this roster as much as Jaylen is, obviously playing more inconsistently through it. So I like what he did in this game. And then Cade, you mentioned it, only starter in the plus, a rock, 34 minutes. We were asking earlier in the year, can he get to 30 plus? He's been doing that more lately. There were some moments in this game. I texted Noah after the dunk. I'm like, man, this is great. Like where he's at right now. I just love what Cade is doing. And the screens in this game too, not to go down the screening conversation lane, but he was setting some awesome ones, setting guys up. The Pritchard one late was through him. A lot of awesome handoff plays, competing with Dern and Stewart. I mean, it's a dream what you've gotten out of Cade this year, especially given what you haven't out of the other centers. They're so lucky to have him. It's been a great underlying story almost every single night this year, how well he's played. And I'm thrilled for him because, again, came into this year with a lot of questions. He did his job tonight. Derek did his job late. As Jaylen said, a lot of guys up and down the lineup did good things here. You just lapsed in key situations. And Joe has said it, Noah, throughout the year. I know he feels like crunch time's a crapshoot. Those do, he admitted, swing how good of a season a team has a lot of the time. And I know he mentioned before the game tonight how great the Pistons have been in those situations. And you look at their record, a lot of that has been late game wins.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is good to flag Derek in particular, because this was his season high in scoring, 31 points on 10 of 18 shooting, hits 5 threes. If they win this game, it's because of his fourth quarter production, where very few guys up and down the roster were able to score the ball. It wasn't the perfect game for him. He had 4 turnovers. He had a bunch of air balls, which I don't know. I feel like Derek airballs a lot. Like, I feel like if he doesn't make it, he is more likely to airball than most. So I don't know what that's about.
Start of the year it felt like too. He was missing really badly.
Yeah, but then it's like
on
he's
this
still
team's so weird. I can't wrap my head around why certain players are shooting bad and then some are great, and the bench guys have been on fire, and Derek and Pritchard can't shoot all year. I cannot figure it out for the life of me.
I don't know that there's much to figure out. I think sometimes it's just like some guys are slumping, some guys are feeling good, you know? Like I don't know that there's always when it comes to like that.
Noah.
I don't think we're gonna find any answers. I think you could bring Shot Doctor and they wouldn't be able to tell you. But it's just good to see Derek continue to turn the corner, because early season Derek was not playing like this. And for Jaylen and Derek to combine for 65, I think that's the vision that a lot of us had for the Celtics team, was really those two guys shouldering the offensive load, and hasn't always been the case this season. And so to see that tonight, like, wasn't enough. Other guys didn't do enough. You know, Jaylen and Derek themselves could have done more. But yeah, I think that's a really good positive indicator from this one, is just the fact that he continues to seem like he's turned the corner a little bit and is a high volume shooter again that looks confident doing so. And yeah, I think he can kind of build off of that, I'm sure.
Final thought, Jimmy?
All right. My final thought is I'm going to give you guys a choice. We either do blame pie or panic meter.
Panic meter.
Yeah.
I know Noah doesn't want blame pie. All right. Panic meter time.
Where would John be tonight? We got to guess that too.
John's great. It's a great question. Where would John be on the panic meter? I think he's
Where's Sherrod on the panic meter?
Sherrod's
he's missing from the meter.
Mr. Cool. I know, because he's never really. He's just chill, man. John, I think John is starting to. I'm not going to speak for John, but I feel like John's starting to believe that the team is the true colors are starting to show a little bit. I think he's concerned about the shooting starting to come back down to earth, and some of the fears that me and him had at the start of the year may actually be legitimate. That's where I think
it's
he
the
might.
Fear that we had, Jimmy. He'd be saying that.
It's the fear that we had. Yeah, he's not ready. You know, John, it's going to take him 40 games for him to really actually pick a side, and even then he might not. And he still might flip flop. Where I'm at, I'm definitely firmly in the middle of the panic meter right now. So there's definitely some panic for me, because I don't forget, I was never super confident in these guys to begin with. So it's hard for me to say that I'm really, really panicked, because I was never really, really high on them, but I was happy to be wrong at the same time. So there is some of this creeping in a little bit now that, hey, maybe just playing hard and with more effort than the other team isn't actually always going to get you where you want to go. Maybe you actually do need to have guys, who are offensively minded and talented enough to outscore the opponent. So that's where I kind of think this team, I think they're kind of capped offensively. And I know it hasn't shown yet, but that's where my panic lies. So I'm somewhere in the middle.
Noah?
No panic for me, because I still have
Zero?
the same vision. No, I mean, that word doesn't really resonate when we're discussing this, but they're on pace for 47 wins right now. I still think they're going to be around 45, which was my initial prediction. They had a really good stretch there. They've had some less good stretches this season. And I think for everything I've seen so far, it kind of gives me the confidence that they're going to be within that range of a, I don't know, playoff team.
So you're not panicked?
Not panicked, no. And I don't think we've seen everything, especially in this game. I didn't see anything that was very concerning. I mean, yeah.
No, I don't think this game specifically.
Right? Yeah. I'll be really curious about what they do with the deadline. Do they get much worse at the deadline? Do they get better? That'll be a good indicator, because that could go in a lot of different directions. There's a lot of factors there. Shedding salary, the front court.
You see a world where they get better?
I think you do a little bit of both.
I mean, one thing that could make them better is if they swapped, made like not even specifically picking on Anthony Simons, but like if you get a productive big in place of Anthony Simons, even if Simons is the better player, this roster has more of a need for that big. So in theory, maybe you wouldn't be getting better, but it would maybe be making you a better basketball team for the kind of the deficiencies that this particular team have had. So I can see that happening. But again, a big point of the season was to see if you have.
Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say they wouldn't necessarily be doing it to get better. They'd be doing it to get out of.
Right. My point is they could be doing it to get out of the luxury tax.
Right.
But in turn, they could actually benefit depending on what the move is. But yeah, I think the point of the season is to see whether you can get these guys to develop. And as long as Jordan continues to play well and you see you have something with Ugo and Josh and those guys, like, I don't think there's any reason to panic this season. Is the season going to be in free fall for some point? I don't anticipate that they're going to have this stretch where now they're starting to enter the lottery or they're becoming a 30-win team. Like I don't see any signs that indicate that. They've been really, really competitive, and that continues to be the case. That to me, I guess, would be what you guys are describing as panic, right? Like the season's about to spiral. I don't have any feeling that that's
I don't
coming.
think. Yeah, I mean, I think that's ultimately when the panic meter goes to the complete far end is when you're in full spiral mode. But I think if you're looking at how this team is winning games and you say, okay, well, can Jaylen Brown continue to carry? But Jaylen Brown is carrying this team.
Yep.
You know, I mean,
should be an MVP candidate.
Gonna basically have to do that for the entire season for them to continue on at even a slightly above 500 pace. So I think that's kind of, if you look at it, like, okay, well, that's part of the panic for me, because I look at the roster and I look at the bench guys and say, okay, well, is Shireman, Minot, Hauser, Ugo, Walsh, are they really enough?
My concern right now, Jimmy, and a lot of guys have contributed. It's nice. To answer the question first, I'm a little over the halfway mark, and I only say that because I believed in this team at the highest level. Did I have the most wins out of the crew here?
Probably.
So
what was your projection, Bobby?
I'll have to pull it up quick here. It was in the high 40s, but I'm going to hold them to that standard right now. And they've been competitive, as I said earlier. A game like this, if you're just asking for fight for it season where you're in it and you're going down the wire with good teams and you lose a lot of them, you'll enjoy this year. There are a lot of fans who probably would love them showing strides this year, being in the mix, and then falling into, you mentioned the lottery. All you got to do is fall down to like 7 in the East for the lottery if you end up losing the play-in. So I think a lot of fans would like that. That's not where I'm at. I want to see them go far. I want to see Tatum come back. I want to see them make a real push this year. And I do start to get a little worried about the shooting, 1, about 2, the center situation, as I've mentioned. And then 3, I'm glad you bring up the deadline too. Not only could you pick up some injuries going forward, as you did tonight with Hauser potentially, but you could also subtract from this roster for financial reasons. And you do have to get to that deadline with a pretty solid case, I think, for ownership to commit to, 1, paying the tax this year, first and foremost, because if ownership does not think this year is worth investing in, or Tatum's going to come back, or there's some hope for a deep playoff run, you're almost certainly getting out of the tax, or at least very close to it, I think. So you got to be in a pretty solid position to avoid that, I would say. And then to make a move that makes you better, you got to be even better than that. So they were in that position a week ago. 2 losses isn't the end of the world, but I just keep stressing there's so little room for error in that East standings that on Friday we could be having a full panic show if Miami comes in and beats them up and they're down in the 9 seed. Jimmy, I know you're saying it's too soon to standings watch, but we're going to look up at the standings that night if they lose and go, whoa, like reality check. I
think the fact that you can drop from 4 to 9 in one game just proves that it is a little bit earlier in the year. Like, I don't anticipate that being the case a month or 2 from now, that one loss would drastically drop you that much. But to your point, Bobby, yeah, they might not be as good as, look at it's the first seeded Pistons versus the 3rd seeded Celtics. Like, it's not really like that is what you're trying to say.
No, but they've been competitive at that level. That's the level they've won at, and they've earned that spot to this point. I'm not going to knock that. It's just about how sustainable it is over the next 60. And I have a lot of questions about the sustainability of this right now, even though I give them all the credit in the world for scrapping, fighting, clawing, and coaching their way to the start. I mean, it has been super impressive day in and day out, Noah, the level that they've had to reach in so many different games to win. And then in this one, just to compete. I mean, again, you're going down to the wire with a real chance to win, playing Cade, Minot, Ugo, and Walsh at center against the biggest, most physical team in the league. So I'm thrilled with the fight that they put up in this one. I'm just concerned that they're not going to be one of the best teams in the East when you look up at the end of the year if you lose too many of these games, particularly the close ones. So I'm very torn coming out of this one. I think it's a great game that you would have loved to have won if you were going to be this great story this season. But if you just want to be in the mix, maybe fall out of it at the end, you're playing for the long term here, I think a lot of fans are fine with what went on tonight, I'd imagine.
Okay. And speaking of fans, we got 2 super chats I want to make sure I get to, and I want to thank everybody for the super chats. Roland D 2456. Fans have been smelling their own farts too long.
Why so much fart talk in the chat tonight?
And downplay making shots when they matter, especially end of game
matter.
free throws. Yeah, there's a lot going on here, but basically, I think what he's saying is fans have been riding this high for a bit, and they're downplaying the fact that Celtics aren't making shots when they need to, especially end of game free throws. Talking about Jaylen Brown's missed free throws. Noah, the missed free throws from Jaylen Brown, is that a concern? A real legitimate concern?
I think free throws just compound themselves. Like, he was 79% from the line entering tonight, which is a really good mark for him, especially relative to his past couple seasons. So it won't be 79% after tonight, but it's one of those things, like, just same way you get cold from 3, like, he got cold from the line, and then you're thinking about the last miss when you're out there.
Yeah,
so it was certainly detrimental. I mean, he would have had, if he went 12 of 14, he would have had 39 points in this game, right? And that changes the pace of the last couple minutes there. He missed some big ones down the stretch, so it certainly mattered. I think that's one of the reasons why he was down on himself after this performance. But this season, he's been fine from the lines. I don't have like bigger picture concerns besides for the fact that he is one of those guys that we know is capable of getting cold from there.
And shout out to him getting there 10 times a game recently. I think that's a credit to adjustments he's made, maybe lobbying for calls. Sure. But it is funny, not to get on him here too much, but you're dying for foul calls, you're dying for free throws,
right?
Then you go to the line and
begging for the refs to give you respect.
You do have to put it in the basket, not to knock them too much for that, but I don't know. I really enjoyed this game tonight, and maybe I'm biased, Noah, because you know how much I love the Pistons.
Maybe. All right, second and final from Animatica Studios, $20. Thank you so much. We haven't had a 2 to 3 game stretch of Anthony Simons being red hot. We are still a top 4 seed. One of the big flaws of this team is tapping into other stuff. We have always been an amazing penetrating team, but we stray.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. A lot of good stuff happens when they drive and kick, when they get inside, when they get things moving. Again, I feel like the process was decent in this game. A lot of good stuff through Cade, a lot of good quality shots, a lot of great looks that they created inside and out. I thought they fought on the glass. I thought defensively they probably had some lapses like they did against Milwaukee. The defense is slipping now. I can't figure out why. That's definitely a Joe question for practice this week, is why the defense is steadily tailed off. I would have to imagine playing Minot, Walsh, and others at center is a reason for that. But I think there's also probably some other reasons for that are going on too here, because we keep looking at that like last 10 games thing, knowing they've been number 1 in offense in pretty much all of them, and like 20th, 21st, 22nd in defense. The offense was the issue tonight, but keep an eye on that defensive ranking for this team, because it is steadily slid over the last week or 2.
Yeah, it's an unusual spot for him to be in like that bottom tier of defense. Sub average, I guess, is the way to describe it. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. That's certainly interesting. I don't have like one obvious reason. Obviously, they've been a much better like first shot defensive team than a defensive rebounding team, but wasn't like a massive problem in this game. So
man, a lot of praise for the turtleneck early, Jimmy, but it is quickly dwindling.
It's turning. There's a lot going on. I mean, I thought that it was one shirt. Turns out it's a turtleneck under like a cardigan or something going on over there.
Yeah.
Or
what it's called, Jimmy? Trying like hell to stay warm. I feel like Noah tonight. I'm freezing.
Look, dude.
I know. I'm just wearing pants and a sweater at this point. Like I can't do it
I-
anymore. It's like an
I think
icicle in
you're.
here.
I think you can pull it off, Bobby. It does. I will say this. It makes you look like you have a comically long neck. I'm just gonna.
I do. That's the problem, I think.
Is that the problem? Okay, so that just confirms it then.
Again,
Okay.
I'm not trying to impress anybody tonight. I'm not trying to make a statement. I'm trying to stay warm. So
Well, you
I
know
don't
what?
care if people want to.
You always impress me. Both you guys, great job tonight. Thanks for jumping on the show with us from the Garden. We have Celtics Heat. Friday
Why can't
night.
it be Miami? Oh,
I know. Unfortunately, the turtleneck might have to come out again Friday, but we'll see everybody back here Friday night. For Noah, for Bobby, my name is Jimmy. John Zanis is asleep. Sharad's asleep. The Boomers are asleep. The kids are out partying. And the Celtics are losers tonight. 112-105.
way to loop yourself in with the kids, Jimmy.
Yeah, I am a kid, baby. To Detroit Pistons. And we are out of here.